morning and welcome to my channel. It is June 29th. Look, for those of you that are new to my channel, you'll quickly learn that I have the largest library of videos in regards to low-income housing, HUD housing, COC housing, wraparound and support services like how to pay utilities, how to get food stamps, how to get other resources, healthcare, whether it's free eyeglasses, whatever it may be. I tend to cover those subjects, okay? Um, One of the things that makes my channel a little bit different is I'm not a talking head that provides you one, two, or three little tips, okay? And you sit there for 20 minutes listening to a bunch of bullshit, okay? If you notice on the screen right there, you'll see a web address, hudhousing.weebly.com. So that'd be www.hudhousing.weebly.com, free site. And we're going to visit it real quick so you can see what I actually provide to you guys. If you look here, here's a continuum of care operation manuals. These are the actual employee manuals. They give you everything they train their people with, so you see the scoring system, the ranking system, and then you can use that information to get yourself, skyrocket yourself to the top of the list. When you go into HUD, a lot of people like to guess. They don't understand how all that stuff works. Well, let me tell you, here's every single manual they use. Okay? So if you ever really wanted to know, let's take a look real quick. Beside your introduction, eligibility, and denial of assistance. Okay, there's the keys of the kingdom right there. You want to know how this stuff works, how to get higher up in that list? There it is. Okay, so like I said, you have two options. You can look at somebody that looks pretty, that's a talking head, that's an airhead, that wants to give you a bunch of tips, or you can hang around here, and we'll actually get to the point and try to get you housed. Okay, I help a lot of people get their housing. So. All right, moving on. So we're going to take a look at some of the things that have been changing for this channel, okay? First of all, you'll see that I finally figured out how to put screen inside of screen, okay? People my age are lucky to be able to use technology. I was fortunate I learned how to use a lot of different apps and applications. So I finally learned how to do this. They had an update on the editing software that I use, and so you'll be able now to view my screen and also me if that's what you want to do. Now, one thing I want to tell you is I'm going to be purchasing a new camera. I'm widely known as doing videos literally from the 80s because the pixels are bad. I mean, it just looks like shit, You're watching, you're struggling, like, God, this guy must be crazy. His videos look terrible, but they always have good information, even though they don't always look that good. So let's take a look at what I'm getting. Logitech, okay? Now, they're not paying me to say anything about it. I'm just letting you know what I'm getting, okay? So this is the Logitech cam. It is a high definition 1093 or 1083p, whatever. In other words, the videos are fixing to drastically change where you can really see me. Now, just as a warning, I'm not buying any lighting yet, so guess what? You'll be able to see a really nice video with shitty lighting, okay? I'll figure that out later. It takes me time to figure these things out. Okay, moving on. So there's a few other, actually we have a lot of things to discuss this morning, COCs, Continuum of Care. Now, most of you know what those are. If you don't know what a Continuum of Cares or charities, they're extensions of HUD that take on federal grants that can get you into housing the same way the HUD does, okay? Look, New Jersey and Nevada are just hellish to deal with. I have a very difficult time getting manuals and maintaining them because either these states are actively trying to avoid me and my videos, or they're moving their links around. And in some cases, I think that they just named the programs in such absurd names that they're so difficult to find and get that I don't currently have them, okay? So if you are from New Jersey and Nevada, I'm doing what I can to get this information, but I got to tell you, it's been a huge pain in my ass, all right? One thing I want to tell you about, I don't do a lot of videos in a week. Let me tell you why. The average YouTuber does one or two a week. I'm doing 15 to 20, okay? So by the time Saturday hits, I usually make a video in the morning. And as an example, around 11 o'clock Saturday morning, I decided to have breakfast a little bit late, and then I fell asleep. I didn't wake up again until 5 p.m. later that day. This stuff is exhausting. Yeah, the videos only take 10 minutes to make. The amount of research that goes into a lot of what I do takes an incredible amount of time, and then you multiply that by 15 to 20 videos a week. So that means I'm pumping these things out of here, out the door as quickly as I can. We're in the middle of a pandemic. It's never going to be a greater time in which you guys are going to need these resources. So I'm doing my best to do that. But unfortunately, on weekends, I'll probably just make one video, and then I'll be monitoring when we're at our highest level of viewership, and then I'll publish it at that time. But typically, it'll either be at 11 in the morning or somewhere around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, okay? Recognition. I like to recognize a couple of people that are constantly supporting this channel. They're giving their advice. They're helping the community of people along with me. And so their names are Prestiges, as you can see highlighted on the screen. Oh, Joe Donzi, he's always given great advice, and he speaks at length in the comment section. And Kiss Sims, and I hope I'm saying all these names right. Look, there are other people that contribute quite a bit to the channel, okay? But unfortunately, I don't want to spend the whole morning going down a long list. But these are the people that are most recently and most commonly comment on everything that I do. They support me, and I support them and my cause, to help them. So, yeah, I just want to recognize you three guys, and then other days I'll cover other people, okay? Now, I want to talk about HUD, and they finally reached a settlement. Atlanta, Georgia, of all places, they decided to discriminate. Let's take a look and see what happened out there in Atlanta. So HUD reaches a settlement, and the Decatur Housing Authority addressing discriminative practices. Okay, you can read about this yourself simply by going to HUD.gov, but let me summarize what happened, okay? We got a big problem in this country, and we always have, and it's called racism and prejudice and bigotry and all kinds of stuff. If you don't fit inside the social norms of things, then people are just, a mess. So what happened over here is apparently they had real nice apartment housing, and then they had just ordinary apartment housing for HUD, okay? So they let a few evil people decide to run this stuff, and the evil people, what they would do is they would go on a list. It'd be, say, 100 people. They go down the list: white person, white person, white person, fifth person, black person. They'd skip him or her, and then white, Mexican, Asian, whatever. And so this is what they were actively doing. They were preventing, and this is what makes it so evil. We're not talking about young African adults, okay? That's not what we're talking about. They were doing this to elderly black African Americans simply because they didn't want these folks living in housing that they had reserved or selected to be practically all white or all Caucasian, possibly other races, I don't know. So this is the kind of shit that goes on. I've warned you guys, I don't care if it's federally funded or not. Whenever you run into people that are going to give you a problem, act like you're going to be racist or prejudiced, stuff like that, you don't just get upset, pissed off inside. What you do is you take an active role in ruining their fucking life. That's what you do. And I'll show you the first thing you should be doing. Now, let me tell you something. I'm not asking anybody to do anything that's illegal, but I want you to go over to HUD.gov, go and file a complaint. So you file your complaints online by email, phone, and mail. Go ahead and get you a legal advocate. A lot of these legal advocates are free, and you can find them through HUD. Well, not HUD, but other organizations that are free, that work for you. Call the ACL. Call the Civil Liberties Union. Report them to the Department of Health. Target the person that is targeting you and take them down, okay? You start reporting them to all these different state and federal sites, I can guarantee you one thing. They'll be the next person applying at HUD to get their own housing, okay? Because what they'll do is they'll kick them out of their job, they'll lose their benefits, everything, okay? So if they're going to actively engage in ruining your life, you need to take active steps to send their ass right to the side and walk along with everybody else, okay? So that's all I've got to say about it. I think it's the most disgusting thing on the planet for people to get involved in jobs where you're supposed to be helping people, much less seniors, and then you go around and you do some shit like this. Because to me, you don't deserve anything from anybody when you get involved in stuff like that, okay? All right, moving on, because I have some pretty strong emotions about shit like that. It's just completely, wildly inappropriate. All right, so the virus, the pandemic. We're going to talk about that for just a minute, okay? I'm not going to go into too much length. Look, the numbers are growing. Let me just show you something real quick, okay? So I'm not trying to raise any panic or anything like that. Here are if you look to the left of the screen on this scale, you'll see where we are. We're at a huge influx. It's obvious. We're opening up the country, and the numbers are starting to almost double. The city I live in, Houston, it's so bad now that every hospital is now booked. There are no beds left in ICU. There are no beds left, period, anywhere. They just have to throw you in the waiting room on a rubber mat at this point because there's nothing left, okay? So if you don't want to be like Houston, let me give you some, I just want to give you some basic human advice. If you don't believe there's anybody dying, despite there being 2.5 million people with this stuff, if you don't believe anybody's got this stuff, the 2.5 million people are just fake news. If you don't believe the more than 100,000 people that have lost their life, some from complete stupidity, then that's your business, okay? I would suggest go down and get some mental health. Get yourself evaluated for your mental health because you clearly are not with reality. The second thing I'm going to tell you is, look, if you don't care whether or not people get it, don't come to my door. Don't come around my family and my kids because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. I'm just going to warn you guys out here that don't care if they call this is fake. If you come around choking and wheezing on my family, that's the best way to get yourself messed up. So I'm just saying you need to be respectful of other people's territory. If you want to go out and get it, that's fine. Go to the hospital, get on the ventilator, die. Nobody gives a shit what happens to you because it's your own damn fault. For those of you that caught it, because of people that are instigating it, I understand that, okay? I understand it, and my empathy goes out to you. We're out there. So, guys, just be safe, okay? There's a lot of this stuff going around. And it looks like some cities are going to be shut down. We're really close in Houston right now to not being able to go back out again for another 3 months. So be mindful of other people, whether you believe in stuff or not. Do not choke, wheeze, and breathe all over people. Nobody wants that, okay? And some people are going to react to you, and they're not going to react in the way that you want, okay? So beyond that, let's go back to our list, take a look at the remaining things here. So we're going to be doing the news at 9, very popular. We've had a tremendous amount of viewership for that, at least for the size of my channel. So we're going to continue to keep that at 9. At noon, so good news. I'm going to be doing public assistance programs and resources, okay? I'm going to go city by city and then provide the resources in the city. I'm going to cherry pick the good things. Look, any of y'all that have been out there that when you go to these places and you need help and you hand you some complete horseshit list to phone numbers that don't answer, to emails where nobody answers, they're dead ends, they've got you chasing your own tail out there to get these resources. I'm going to weed them out, okay? And so I'm going to pick the best of the best that I can find out from each city by talking to different professionals, counselors, and different things, and I'm going to provide them city by city. Look, if you live in a real small town, I'm probably not going to focus on a small town simply because I'm not going to make a 30-second video to mention the one resource they have in that town. Okay, we'll address cities both big, large, and moderate. Okay. So big, large, moderate, possibly small. So I think if you probably have around 500,000 people in your city, I will probably at some point focus on that. If you want your city mentioned, mention it below, okay? The 3 o'clock and 6 p.m., that's going to be basically our special interest videos and EDU, where I educate you about different things. And I was supposed to this weekend tell you about shelters. Those of you that is in an imminent possibility of you losing everything and having to go live in a shelter, we're going to talk about everything that you need to know about these shelters. For those of you who don't know, I spent about 10 years out on the street. And over those 10 years, I crossed 20 states. I worked completely through 7 cities, which means from the sidewalk all the way through the shelter system, all the way through the HUD system. So let me tell you, you're not going to get somebody that has quite the bag of tricks when it comes to this stuff. I worked all the way through these systems. I know it well. I knew it better than the people that were doing it, okay? So really, when I sat at a HUD office or I sat at a shelter reception, I was your worst nightmare because I knew all the policies, I knew all the rules, I knew all the ins and outs, I knew every loophole. I was basically the type of person that was unavoidable. I knew the system that well. And these days, here we are 20 years later, and I'm trying to teach you what you need to know, what your rights are, and what you're entitled to, okay? Not your entitlement, but what you're entitled to, okay? So, you know what? It's been great talking with y'all today. And as I said, we'll have a new camera coming and new lighting. And then I think we have a good direction to move forward with this week. And that's it. That's all I've got for you this morning, folks. All right. Have a good morning. Bye.